Since the debut of The Batman, we've been getting more and more details on the upcoming Penguin spin-off series for HBO Max, which of course Colin Farrell is returning to reprise his role from the movie for this series, but other than that, we don't really know much. Until now, because we have some new details on the series, not only on what the show is actually going to be about, but also about possibly some other classic Batman villains that could be featured in this series as well. Now, this information is coming from an anonymous post on 4chan, so of course take with a grain of salt, consider rumor, don't take it as confirmed by no means, but it does seem pretty likely that this information is valid. So let's go and check this out. First of all, a spin-off of The Batman described as a Scarface-like series about the rise of the Penguin character. The Penguin, otherwise known as Oswald Chesterfield Cobblepot, is a dapper mob boss and one of Batman's primary villains. So this right here is kind of the basic information that we've already heard about the series, so nothing new in this part. But then things get interesting when we look at the casting calls for characters that will be introduced in the series. So first up we have Robert, and by the way, they use code names for these casting calls, so just because it says Robert here doesn't mean the character's name is actually going to be Robert. So Robert is a series regular looking for age 30 to 45, any ethnicity, and is handsome, charming, very physically fit, an incredibly ambitious gangster. Now, going off of the description of the character here, the age, and also kind of the name, this does kind of sound like a take on Black Mask from the comics, who his name is of course Roman Sionis, and Roman and Robert, they're kind of similar names, so that could be what they're going for here. And it just makes sense that you would have a series about the Penguin, a gangster mob boss, especially it being like a Scarface-like series, to have other lower level criminal mobster gangster type Batman villains featured in the series as well, like Black Mask. I feel like he's the perfect character for this. Now, that's just a guess of mine based off the description. It could be any regular old ambitious gangster, you never know. But I feel like Black Mask, you know, he's a handsome, ambitious gangster, and I think he'd fit in pretty well with the series. Now, this is the really interesting one. So we have Logan, again, most likely a code name. This character will be a series regular. They're looking for age 40 to 59, Caucasian or a person of color, and is described as a character who's an actor who was driven mad when he heard he couldn't participate in a play due to his deformed face. Now, some of you classic Batman fans may think that sounds a bit familiar because that sounds exactly like the classic Batman villain, Clayface, who Basil Karlo originally was an actor until an accident where he became deformed and then was no longer able to participate in his acting career. So he kind of went a little insane, started murdering people, stealing, doing all that stuff. Now, the thing is, when people think Clayface, most people think of this big, huge, scary clay monster. Now, I doubt they're going to be going that far with the character, just because Matt Reeves, this universe he's created with the Batman, is much, much more grounded. I don't think that's something that would really work in this setting, but they could be going for a classic Golden Age version of Clayface, which the original Golden Age version of Clayface in the comics, Basil Karlo was an actor who had the same thing, you know, he was deformed, so he turned to a life of crime, started murdering people, and instead of being a giant clay monster, instead he actually was just really skilled in like masks and makeup and costumes and went around being a serial killer like that, which I think could work really well. I've really talked about recently how I would love to see Clayface as the villain of the Batman 2 or future the Batman movie, but to use him in this spin-off series I think works as well, because you can also do a kind of detective murder mystery story here. Again, just the concept of a serial killer who can change his appearance is really, really interesting. Now, I don't really know exactly how he would play specifically into the Penguin story, whether it would be like a Penguin versus Clayface type thing, or if they're like working together. I don't really know what the details are. Maybe it's even setting up Clayface to have a bigger role in the Batman movie, the Batman 2 or something like that. I don't really know exactly what the details would be, but I feel like I would love to see Clayface, whether it's the big clay monster or the classic Golden Age version of Basil Carlo. Now the last two here are a little less interesting, but still interesting no less. Rupert, a series regular, age 50 to 60. Caucasian, wealthy socialite who is a cruel father and an abusive husband, which that character kind of ties into Linda, who is also a series regular, age 30 to 40. Caucasian, a supportive but tired wife, reluctantly dealing with her abusive husband and his troubled son. So this, I feel like, could be the Penguin's parents. I feel like they're maybe going to be doing flashbacks to his childhood and kind of show what happened to him, what happened to his nose and like his face, and what made Oswald Cobblepot deformed and made him look the way he does in present day in the Batman. And the whole idea of his father being abusive, his mother being also much younger than his father, and just like the whole wealthy socialite thing, and just growing up in that environment could have turned this Oswald Cobblepot to a life of crime. And, you know, I feel like that'd be an interesting thing to do, and I feel like that's what they're going to be doing in this series with the Penguin's characters. They'll probably be doing some flashbacks to his childhood, because they did that in Batman Returns, where we started off the movie with, you know, Oswald Cobblepot's birth, and we had his parents and everything. They were like super rich, but there wasn't really much going on there. They kind of just dumped him in the river and that was it. So I'd love to see more exploration of that and his parents and his childhood life growing up in the Batman universe. But guys, what do you think about this information about the upcoming Penguin spin-off series for HBO Max? What do you think about the possibility of seeing characters like Black Mask and Clayface featured in the Penguin series, and also the possibility of flashbacks featuring Oswald's parents and his childhood life? But for now, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.